Well, good morning, Alderwood. I have a question for you as we start this morning, and it's not like a happy, good feeling question. It's a question about something that I think we all deal with, but I'm curious. Do y'all ever feel lonely? It's even scary to say it out loud, right? Somebody might notice and then ask you to coffee after church. But it's been said recently that the loneliest people on earth can be found in Western society. We love our individualism. I think that's part of it, but we also innately crave connection. It's one of our values here at Alderwood. We exist to connect with one another. But we don't want anyone to touch our autonomy. And in order for that to happen, we have to pursue some form of isolation, don't we? If you don't want anyone to touch your autonomy, you have to steel yourself against vulnerability and openness, and at the same time, we find ourselves incredibly lonely. I found this stat on loneliness this week as I prepared for this message from November 2025, so it's very recent, from the American Psychological Association. This is what they had to say about adults in America. More than 6 in 10 U.S. adults reported feeling this way, while half or more adults said they felt isolated, 54%, left out, 50%, or lacking companionship, 50%, often or some of the time. Man, that is staggering. No one wants to feel this way. I think we all want to connect, but as a society, it would seem that we are awfully good at accomplishing what we don't desire. And the year 2020 did not do us any favors. I mean, go with me here. Studies are actually showing that these statistics are worse among younger generations. If you're a parent, you are currently potentially raising one of the loneliest generations. But today we're going to look at the thing that combats loneliness in our lives. We're going to look at what we all need, which is faithful and godly friendships. Last week we got a little bit of a glimpse into this faithful and godly friendship as we saw King Saul, again, trying to kill David, or at least saying he was going to do it, then actually trying to do it. And Jonathan speaking up, Prince Jonathan speaking up on behalf of his friend David. We got a glimpse into their friendship. And this week, it's going to be on full display as we unpack 1 Samuel chapter 20, and we look and get a closer look at their friendship. And we're going to start in 1 Samuel 20, Verse 1, the writer tells us, David fled from Naioth in Ramah and came to Jonathan and asked, "What have I done? What did I do wrong? How have I sinned against your father so that he wants to take my life?" Now, listen to Jonathan's response. Jonathan said to him, "No, you won't die." Why does he think that? "Listen, my father doesn't do anything, great or small, without telling me. So why would he hide this matter from me? This can't be true." If you were with us last week in chapter 19, it is absolutely true. Saul tried to kill David 3 different times in 3 different ways. But the last conversation John has had with your old dad was, "Don't kill David. Don't you remember all he did for you in slaying Goliath and saving the Israelites? Don't you remember that?" And he's like, "Yeah, you're right. I won't kill him then." Followed immediately with 3 assassination attempts. But David said, "Your father certainly knows that I have found favor with you. He has said, 'Jonathan must not know of this or else he will be grieved.'" Man, David is such a good guy still at this point. I mean, he's going to have a fall at some point if you've read the story. But he still is somewhat considering that there could be an altruistic motive, that he just doesn't want to make his son sad about killing his best friend. Really, we're going to find out what it is. because David has some helpful insight. David also swore, as surely as the Lord lives and as you yourself live, there is but a step between me and death. Jonathan says, you can't be true. And David says, I'm not lying to you. I'm not making this up. I'm not imagining it. Jonathan said to David, whatever you say, I will do for you. Jonathan is a ride or die friend. He's got his back. He's saying, whatever you need, I'm here, man. I'm in your corner. So David told him, look, tomorrow is the new moon, and I'm supposed to sit down and eat with the king. Instead, let me go. I'll hide in the countryside for the next 2 nights. If your father misses me at all. Now, he doesn't mean like misses him, like, oh man, I was really hoping he'd be here. Where's he at? Oh, he always plays a liar so well. He brings the party, you know? No, he's saying if he notices I'm gone, not if he misses me. Say, David urgently requested my permission to go quickly to his hometown, Bethlehem, for an annual sacrifice there involving the whole clan. He says, make the excuse that I've gone home for a family reunion and a worship service. He goes on, if he says good, like no big deal, I'm glad he's able to connect with the fam, great, then your servant is safe. But he becomes angry, you will know he has evil intentions. Deal kindly with your servant, for you have brought me into a covenant with you before the Lord. Check this out. He has so much trust in this friendship. If I have done anything wrong, then kill me yourself. Why take me to your father? He's saying, like, don't waste the king's time. If you see fault in me that's worthy of what your dad's trying to do to me, Jonathan, I trust you. Just you take care of it. That is a deep level of trust. No, Jonathan responded. If I ever find out my father has evil intentions against you, when he says, I find out my father has evil intentions against you, what he's also saying by saying that is, I don't believe you have I don't believe you have done anything wrong. Because if it's deserving of punishment, then you have done something wrong. Therefore, his dad only has evil intentions. It shows you the close-knitness that they have, the ability that he has to see in David the good that is not deserving it. He says, wouldn't I tell you about it? So David asked Jonathan, who will tell me if your father answers you harshly? And the answer to that question is that Jonathan will tell him. See, David's scared for his life. And he has plenty of reason to be. He's on the run. Saul's recently tried to kill him 3 times, right? If you remember from last week, he tried to pin him to the wall with a spear while he was just playing some music. And then he sends some assassins to try to kill him in his own bed, but his wife, Michal, puts an idol in the bed and disguises it, this whole like Ferris Bueller's Day thing. And which is really odd because David has an idol, like a life-size idol in his home that they don't explain it, so that's weird. But then there's this crazy worship service that happens, and Saul even tries to go himself to kill David, but God thwarts that effort. And then David asks for Jonathan's help. He says humbly, what have I done? I don't think David is actually asking a rhetorical question of Jonathan. I think that David is an upright guy at this point, and he's doing something that's really healthy, which is introspection. Hey, I don't know what's completely going on in this conflict, but a healthy question to ask is, how have I contributed to it? And that's something I think we can all do, is even when you're sure or pretty sure you've done nothing wrong, asking the question, what might I have contributed to it, is a good thing to do. And Jonathan seems to think that everything is actually good between David and King Saul. Because he says, man, this can't be happening. No way. He would have told me. And there's a reason he thinks that. Again, it's because the last conversation he had with dad was, I won't kill him. Immediately followed with 3 assassination attempts. Jonathan's being kept in the dark by Saul. I don't know if Jonathan doesn't talk to his sister, Michal, because she had pretty up close and personal view of these attempts. Maybe they don't talk. I don't know. This family has so much dysfunction. It's crazy. So maybe they just don't talk. David is insistent that it's true, and so they hatch this plan to see if Saul's intentions concerning David are, in fact, for evil. David's supposed to be going to this new moon feast at the palace and for the next 2 nights with Saul and the fam, but he doesn't show up, right? He's not there. Saul's going to ask about his whereabouts. Jonathan is going to give the excuse that they have agreed upon. And if he responds poorly, David's in danger. But if he responds like, oh, no big deal, great, glad he was able to do that, then everything's good. And once Jonathan has figured out where Saul's temperature is, David and Jonathan will meet back at a very specific place at a predetermined time. And the way that he's going to let David know what the outcome was is he's going to fire some arrows into the field. And he's going to send his servant out to retrieve the arrows. And while his servant's out there, if he says, hey, aren't they just to the side of you? He'll know, all clear. You're good. Come on home. If he says, aren't the arrows just beyond you? He'll know it's time to flee. Jonathan then makes a covenant with David to tell David the truth, no matter what it is. The first night of dinner happens, and David's not there. Saul kind of assumes, the text tells us, that David is somehow like ceremonially unclean. He's somehow unfit for this dining experience, and he just says nothing, figuring, well, he'll show up tomorrow. I'll take care of business then. And then this is what happens the second night. However, the day after the new moon, the second day, David's place was still empty. And Saul asked his son Jonathan, why didn't Jesse's son come to the meal either yesterday or today? Jonathan's prepared answer, David asked for my permission to go to Bethlehem. He said, please let me go because our clan is holding a sacrifice in the town and my brother has told me to be there. So now, if I have favor with you, let me go so I can see my brothers. That's why he didn't come to the king's table. Then Saul became angry with Jonathan and shouted, you son of a perverse and rebellious woman. I'm going to let you go ahead and contextualize that into modern English, but it wasn't nice, okay? He says, don't you know that you are siding with Jesse's son to your own shame and to the disgrace of your mother? Every day Jesse's son lives on the earth, you and your kingship are not secure. Now send for him and bring him to me. He must die. Well, I think his intentions are pretty clear at this point. Jonathan answered his father back, why is he to be killed? What has he done? He's thinking, we'll go back to the argument thing. Maybe dad will change his mind again. Then Saul threw his spear at Jonathan to kill him. So he knew that his father was determined to kill David. Now, just like I read this and he's throwing spears at Jonathan, he's throwing spears at David. He is like the Old Testament stormtrooper because he can't hit anything. He got up from the table fiercely angry. Jonathan did. He did not eat any food that second day of the new moon, for he was grieved because of his father's shameful behavior toward David. Jonathan is almost killed for having David's back. You don't get a much better friend than that. See, real friendship is going to require some personal risk. It will cost you. It will cost you time. It will cost you energy. It will cost you prioritization. Jonathan puts his own life on the line for David. And it's not even the first time that Saul has tried to kill Prince Jonathan. And keep these things in mind too, these two things, because Saul kind of draws it out. And it's not untrue, by the way. Every day David lives is a threat to Jonathan's kingship, which he will never have. So these two things are true. No one stands to gain more from David's death, and no one stands to lose more from his living than Jonathan does. So if you want to test whether or not a friendship is true, see how your friendship withstands successes on either end of the friendship. A friend gets a promotion or a raise and you've been hoping for one. You don't even work at the same place, but they get one and they tell you about it and they're excited. Where does your heart go? Celebration or jealousy? A friend moves into a new house and you're still saving. Where does your heart go? A friend gets engaged and you're still single and you've been praying for that person in your life. Where does your heart go? Or a friend studied with you for a big test. You studied together, you spent the same amount of time on it, they get a better grade than you. Where does your heart go? Or a friend is going on a really nice vacation and man, you wish you were in the financial place to be able to do such a thing. Where does your heart go? Jonathan's putting his life on the line and he's not considering what he is losing as more important than what God is doing in David's life. Jesus had this to say about friendship. No one has greater love than this, to lay down his life for his friends. And see, Jesus does that very thing, lays down his life for us and calls us friends. Jonathan is willing to give his own life for David. So Jonathan goes to the predetermined location. It's a field with the rock of Ezel, and I don't mean the chicken place, but it's this location. He fires the arrows into the field, and after he fires them into the field, while David is close by hiding, Jonathan's servant runs out into the field to retrieve the arrows, and he shouts, "Isn't it just beyond you?" And he sends his servant back home into the city, and David comes out of hiding. I said earlier that we all need this type of friendship. We all need faithful and godly friendships. See, we want a friendship that is devoted to the mutual good of the other. We all desire it. Someone to have our backs in the good, the bad, and the ugly. And you might say, well, why do we all feel that way? Why isn't it just good enough to have a relationship with God and call it good? Well, I think we can go all the way back to the beginning of God's word in Genesis, and we find that when God created everything, he called each thing after he created it, he would say that it was good. And then he creates Adam and he says, it's very good. And then almost immediately he says something is not good. Sin has not entered the picture. Man has not fallen. How can something be not good? He says it's not good that the man is alone. And you're like, wait a minute, I've read that story and I've never thought about it this way, but how is it not good that he's alone? Isn't he with God? Doesn't Genesis tell us that God was walking with Adam in the cool of the day? He has a close, personal, intimate relationship with his creator. How is he alone? It's because there is no one like him. Which tells me that God created in each of us not just a need for a relationship with God, but for a relationship with other humans. Each person enters this world with two gaps in their lives. One is a gap between them and God that can only be restored by accepting what Jesus Christ has done for us at the cross and his resurrection. And a need for close, meaningful friendship. Each of those elements complements and accentuates the other. Neither one is what it could be without the other. You have friendship without God at the center, and it will never be what it could be if God was at the center of that friendship. Lots of people in this world have friends. God is not at the center. You can be a hermit and worship Jesus in a shack up on Mount Baker with no human interaction, and your relationship with God will never be what it could be without what the Bible says as two people sharpening each other. If you're never pushed or challenged on what you think and believe by another follower of Jesus, your relationship with him will never be what it otherwise could be. See, real friendship reveals the truth, and we see this in the story of David and Jonathan. In this case, the revelation was about life and death. It's about revealing that David did indeed have an enemy in Saul, but we all have an enemy. And I'm going to submit to you that our enemy is the same as David's enemy. And I don't know if you're sitting there right now going, you just said David's enemy is Saul. Calculation, that guy's been dead for an awfully long time. But Saul is an instrument of the enemy that we all have. The scriptures describe it this way. Our enemy, be sober-minded, be alert. Your adversary, the devil, is prowling around like a roaring lion looking for anyone he can devour. Who is our enemy? The one who has been the enemy since the beginning. What are his tactics, though? Because very often we think our enemy is someone else. It's other people. Well, Paul tells us about this in Ephesians chapter 6. He says, for our struggle is not against flesh and blood. But we often do that, right? See, his tactic is to get you to believe he's not the enemy. It's your neighbor you don't get along with. It's the annoying person at work. It's that person who cuts you off on the road. False. It's not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers of this darkness, against evil spiritual forces in the heavens. He doesn't just have cunning tactics, he also has a mission. A thief, Jesus says, the thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. I have come so that they may have life and have it in abundance. Saul is an instrument of the real enemy who seeks to steal, kill, and destroy in your life. We need to remember that while the enemy may use different vehicles to accomplish his ends, in David's life, he used Saul. Our enemy is real. He is a master of disguise. He will make you think that the enemy is anyone but him, and he will seek to destroy what God desires in our lives. Real friends warn each other when they see the enemy getting close. When they see things in the other's life that doesn't match up to the gospel they claim to serve, the Jesus they claim to follow. Jonathan told David the truth of the matter, and some truths are easier to say. Some truths, like that outfit is not working for you. Maybe save that one for friendships, not spouses. Or you got something hanging from your nose. They're easier truths. But what do we do when the truth is harder to say? When we know it might actually bring heartache to the person that we need to share it with? The enemy, I think, has a much harder time getting at us, getting at a person who has faithful friends who will speak the truth. Without revealing too much of the rest of David's story, consider this. Jonathan has been a key figure in David's life in our last several weeks. When he's succeeding in following the Lord faithfully. But like what Wyatt said last week, David is a complicated figure. He doesn't always get it right. He's not perfect, and he's going to make some terrible choices down the road. The enemy is able to steal, to kill, and destroy, literally in David's life later on in the story. But that doesn't actually happen until Jonathan is dead and gone. Until the one who can say the hard truth is gone. David doesn't actually replace Jonathan's role in his life when Jonathan is gone. He surely has people who advise him. He has people who say hard things after the fact, like Nathan we'll find out later on. But he doesn't have anyone who's speaking the hard truth into his life or saying the hard thing. He doesn't replace it. But see, here's the thing we need is real friendship says the hard thing. Jonathan could have assumed that Saul would waffle again. He has multiple times, right? I'm going to kill David. I'm not going to kill David. I'm going to make up your mind. But he's waffled a bunch of times. He could have gone and said, David, he said that he was going to, but let's be real, man. Just come home. It'll be fine. You're his son-in-law. I don't want to lose you. Wisdom says, get away from this guy. And the harder truth that Jonathan shares with David is not so simple. See, it means that David is going to have to flee. It's a turning point in the story of David. He will be on the run for years, and Jonathan doesn't know if he will ever see his best friend again. They part ways after the news that David's not safe. It's an emotional scene. They weep bitterly, they embrace, but they don't live at a point in human history where they can send each other late night Instagram memes or just say, we'll FaceTime tomorrow. They couldn't even very successfully send a letter. They certainly couldn't just pick up the phone. This was a real sacrifice. And see, real friends risk and pursue vulnerability. They embrace the hard truths because the messenger can be trusted. And think of the level of vulnerability that David has with Jonathan here. It's more than simple transparency. It's more than just the truth. And to illustrate the point, I'm going to ask my friend Trent to come on out here and help me real quick. This is my friend Trent. And thank you. Yeah. But we want to be transparent with many people. Like, be honest, be upfront, right? And when I have transparency, I might say something like, man, I'm going through a really hard time. And he can see my eyes. There's transparency to it. But try and poke me in the eye, Trent. Yeah, nothing, right? I'm fine. I didn't reveal all that much, but it was honest. But if I were to go a step deeper into vulnerability, it would be like removing the protection and saying, I'm going through a really hard time in my life because there's some stuff going on and I feel like I'm slipping into some sinful patterns, and Trent, I just need to be honest with you. Now poke me in the eyes. Nah, right? Thank you, Trent. See, the fact of the matter is a faithful and godly friend won't use the vulnerability against you, but vulnerability means that you could be hurt with the information provided. It takes a step deeper into trust. Tim Keller said this: everyone says they want community and friendship, but when it means accountability or commitment, people run the other way. The Bible tells us this about friendship and hard truths. It says, wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. See, Saul publicly praised David and then tried to murder him behind closed doors. Even Jesus was betrayed by a kiss from a friend. Hard truths can be trusted from someone we know has our good in mind. An enemy will butter you up to keep you close. Saul did that. Earlier on in 1 Samuel, we find that it actually says from that day forward, he kept David close to keep an eye on him. He even gave his daughter to David in marriage, thinking she'll be a trap for him. Doesn't get much closer than bringing you into the family. What I'm talking about is a level of trust that comes with real risk. To place yourself in that kind of relational trust is actually not something that's built in an instant or even overnight. David is literally placing his hands, or placing his life in Jonathan's hands. It doesn't get much more risky and vulnerable than life and death. We shouldn't do that with just anyone and everyone. So we have midweek starting in just a couple of weeks, and I hope this room is packed. Like, you come, you want to connect with others, you want to grow in your relationship with Jesus, you want to do that together. But you might find yourself sitting at a table with somebody who you've never met before. That is not the place to do vulnerability. I'm going to tell you right now, it's weird, it's off-putting, and necessary time to develop that level of trust has not occurred. Trust is a compound interest investment. It needs time to mature and reap its dividends. Harder truths between followers of Jesus look like seeing something in the life of another that doesn't match the devotion to Jesus that they have expressed to you, and being brave enough to speak up in love. But it also means having spent the necessary time to earn the trust to be heard. It's a little bit like revealing too much too early on in a relationship. And for that, I wanted to tell you a little story about young Curtis. This is the James Building at California Baptist University. I'm sure you all very much care. It is the old mission-style building, and this is a popular date site for myself. And you might go, where? Where would you go? Well, let me show you. Right about there. We would climb up onto the roof, and I would sit there with the young lady that I had decided she had accepted my date proposal. And I remember going up there one night with a young lady, and I sat there and we were just enjoying the view. It was a beautiful night, and I got caught up in the moment, and we started talking about things, and I remember sharing something rather stupid, like how my desire to one day get married. And that was also the last date we ever went on. See, David can trust a difficult word from Jonathan because David and Jonathan have proven over time their devotion to their friendship. I can tell you that the last year for me has proven to be an especially difficult one. And in the spirit of telling you about transparency and vulnerability, I'm not going to tell you all the vulnerable parts. But that guy Trent that walked out here, he knows them. He knows the vulnerable parts. It's God's use of friends who can sit in the hard with me, who can say the difficult things that got me through some of that. And we have a developed relationship, Trent and I, where I can accept pushback, where I can risk being honest about where I'm at and then receive feedback. It doesn't always feel great, but I can tell you I feel the love of God when I have that godly friendship in my life. And maybe you have a close friend like that. I would encourage you to cherish that, to steward it well as the gift of God that it is. We all need faithful and godly friendships, and maybe you find yourself right now, even while I'm talking, I don't have that. I want that. I've been missing that. I've been looking for it. You find yourself in a season of waiting for it. Perhaps you had it and it's gone. They moved away, and it's not the same. You moved away. You moved here, and it's not the same. They sadly passed. Maybe right now is the season of searching and feeling out relationships. And maybe that you need to risk a little bit in a relationship to see if someone can reciprocate. It is scary to put yourself out in that way. It is. It's challenging. If you find yourself in a season that's lacking that type of friendship, I want to encourage you to ask a question. Rather than just sit and wait and do what we likely do a lot, is kind of complain that we don't have it. I want you to ask a question of yourself. Am I asking God to help me become the person who can fill that role for someone else? Am I readying myself? Am I someone who can be trusted with the vulnerable spaces in someone else's story? I want you to use this season as a chance for preparedness rather than just waiting. Allow God to do work in you. Pray for that friend to be revealed to you. So we all need faithful and godly friendships. Let me pray for us. Would you join us in worship? God, thank you for loving us. Thank you for loving us so much that you said it's not good for the man to be alone. Thank you for the example of David and Jonathan, who experienced such closeness that they were able to go beyond the surface. They were able to trust each other deeply. God, I pray for those that are waiting for that feel like it's non-existent in their life. Would you bring that to them? And for those of us that have it, God, would you help us, remind us to be thankful, to see it for the gift from you that it is. It's in your name we pray.